Okay, our environment. This chapter talks about environment and what all the major components of the environment, how do we show interaction in the environment, and food chain, ozone layer, everything we are going to discuss in this chapter. Now, what is environment? The physical, chemical, and biological conditions of the region in which an organism lives is called its environment. It includes air, light, soil, temperature, water, right, as abiotic components, along with the presence or absence of other organisms. If we say organisms, means we are talking about biotic component. Right. So these are the conditions which are required for the development or growth in environment. Environment has three main component factors. One is the physical, which includes the soil, air, water, what we have discussed here. Soil, air, water. Second is biological, or we say living organisms, which include plants, animals, decomposers. Decomposers can be bacteria and can be fungi. Okay, first one, second one, and what is the third one? Third one is the meteorological factors. So the third factor is meteorological factors. These are climatic factors. When we talk about temperature, when we talk about rainfall, humidity, pressure, wind speed, all these are the meteorological factors. We can take it as a part of the physical factors as well. Alright. Now coming to what is a physical environment and how is it going to affect us. Now, when we say physical environment, we are talking about abiotic factors or the abiotic environment or the non-living environment, right? So again, soil, water body, air, and number two, meteorological factors. Why this environment is essential? Because this environment supplies nutrients to the living beings. Number two, provides space for the living. Number three, control climatic conditions. That means control the weather of that place. Fine. When we talk about the second, that is the biological or the biotic environment, we talk about plants, animals. We have to include ourselves as well, so including human beings as well. We are a part of Animalia, that's why. Number 3, decomposers. These are bacteria and fungi. Clear? Now, what are the other constituents of the biotic environment? Do not forget vultures. Vulture and eagle. What do? They feed on dead and decaying organisms. And what do they act as? Act as scavengers, meaning the cleansing agents. Cleansing agents of the environment. Okay. Now moving to what is an ecosystem, where this entire interaction of this biotic and abiotic world takes place. That is ecosystem. So ecosystem, a community of organisms interacting with each other along with the environment in which they live. And with which they also interact. The community of organisms interacting with each other and along with the environment in which they live, with which they also interact. Example, a pond, a desert, forest, lake, river, a mountain and the sea. All these are examples of ecosystem, and all these ecosystems are made up of two main components. What are the main components that we see here? Any idea? We have already covered that component. The components which these are made up of are abiotic as well as the biotic component. Abiotic, as we have already discussed, includes the physical environment, and these ones include all the living organisms. Okay, here we will include the inorganic substances as well, which are carbon dioxide, nitrogen, water, oxygen, sulfur, phosphorus, calcium, potassium, whatever is required by the plants and us, everything. Okay. And third, we can always directly link to physical environment, that is climatic factors. Now when we talk about biotic, these will now be of the following types. The interacting species are of following types. There can be producers, there can be consumers, there can be decomposers, and there can be scavengers. Alright, So these components, depending upon whether they are green plants which synthesize their own food, we call them producers or autotrophs. They can be consumers or heterotrophs, means which depend on the others for food. These are consumers. Decomposers, we know to this category bacteria and fungi, which consume the dead remains of other organisms, and scavengers, the cleansing agents of the environment. Now, coming to the food chain, what is a food chain and how all these species interact, all these organisms, all these components interact in a food chain. What is a food chain? It is the sequence of living organisms. Sequence of living organisms in a community. In which one organism eats the other. In which one organism eats the other. Okay, and is itself eaten. Itself eaten by another organism, to transfer energy. Okay, this is known as a food chain. Chain of organisms, basically which is existing in a natural community, is the only place through which the energy is transferred. So we say it is the sequence how the organisms are going to transfer the energy. Some examples of food chains on land are: number 1, grain eaten up by a sparrow, then a cat eats a sparrow. Okay. Second example, grass eaten up by a rabbit, and rabbit is eaten by a hawk. Clear? Third, an example in water, alga eaten up by protozoa, then consumed by small fish and is consumed by big fish. Basically, alga, which becomes a phytoplankton, is eaten by a zooplankton.